sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive.
끝없이 쏟아지는 포토스팟. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니?
Arrow straight through my heart.
Coming up on Arirang News. For a second consecutive day, the Israeli military has conducted targeted raids overnight in Gaza, with the full-scale incursion appearing to be just a matter of time. This despite the international community attempting to dissuade Israel amid concerns of a deepening humanitarian crisis. Top diplomats of the United States and China sat down for talks in Washington, exploring areas of cooperation despite their differences. The meeting aimed to pave the way for a possible summit between Joe Biden and Xi Jinping in November. It's been a year since the deadly crowd crush in Itaewon, central Seoul, where celebrating Halloween turned into a nightmare. We look back on the tragedy, the changes made since then, and what still needs to be done. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We start with the intensifying war between Israel and Hamas. For 2 nights straight, the Israel Defense Force has launched targeted raids inside Gaza, saying that these are in preparation for an expected ground invasion. Amid fears over an imminent full-scale incursion, the international community continues to dissuade Israel, saying this would be a humanitarian disaster. Our Yoon talked to an expert about what's next to come.
Israel conducted a targeted raid into northern Gaza overnight using tanks. According to AFP, the Israel Defense Force said this was part of preparations for the next stage of combat before leaving the area. Israel's ground operation seems to have come a step closer, following Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's statement on Wednesday that the country was getting ready for a ground invasion. However, he did not provide any further information regarding the operation. The United Nations, in the meantime, is appealing for a ceasefire, which does not seem likely. Then what is causing the delay? One expert, Baek Seung-un, told Arirang TV that as Israel's goal is to eliminate Hamas, the real question is what comes next.
There are 3 options. One is that Israel Defense Force will stay there as long as they're possible, that they could build up the peace and stabilize the area. And the second option is they could build an interim government within the Gaza Strip who could substitute the Hamas. Israel and the United States might bring Hamas governments, a government from West Bank.
Baek theorizes that the ongoing internal discussion is what is keeping Israel from striking Gaza in the long-awaited ground operation.
If that is not possible, they could use al-Fatah, which before Hamas came to power, but it has not yet decided yet who will going to be the post-Hamas governance when they are out in Gaza Strip.
Baek said that as Israel cannot trust al-Fatah, nor has it decided on who should be the new government in Gaza, the best option is for it to proceed with the war and occupy Gaza until it removes Hamas's ability to rule there. However, according to the professor, the United States is against Israel's occupation of Gaza, as that could provoke another conflict, and that the longer it stays, the greater the collateral damage that will happen, giving an excuse for Hezbollah or the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps to attack Israel. Israel has been carrying out intense bombardment of Gaza following the October 7th Hamas attack across its southern border, and so the ground operation will seemingly happen shortly. According to Gaza's health ministry, the death toll in Gaza has risen to more than 7,000. Yoon, Arirang News.
In the meantime, the Israeli military says Hamas used weapons made by North Korea and Iran during its October 7th attack. Lee Seung-jae tells us more.
The Israeli military says North Korean and Iranian weapons, which included mines, rocket-propelled grenades, and drones, were used by Hamas during its attack on Israel on October 7th. An Iranian mortar launcher and a North Korean-made grenade launcher were part of the haul of weapons recovered, with an official saying a total of 20% of all weapons used by Hamas during the attacks were from North Korea and Iran. Iran's foreign minister told the United Nations on Thursday that Tehran is ready to play a role in mediating talks to release Israeli hostages from Hamas, along with Qatar and Turkey. However, he said in order for such negotiations to take place, Israel must be prepared to release 6,000 Palestinians held in its prisons. Meanwhile, according to Russian media outlet TASS, a delegation from Hamas visited Moscow on Thursday for talks on the release of hostages, including Russian citizens that the militant group is currently holding in Gaza. The Kremlin said Iran's deputy foreign minister is in Moscow to hold talks with Russian officials to discuss the ongoing conflict and find ways to stabilize the situation. Israel slammed the visit by the Hamas delegation, saying that Russia should expel them from their country, while criticizing Russia for inviting them. 이승재, Arirang News.
President Joe Biden ordered 2 U.S. fighter jets to hit Syrian weapons and ammunition facilities used by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and the militias it backs. Reuters reported that 2 F-16s struck those facilities in eastern Syria on Friday local time in retaliation for last week's attacks on U.S. forces by Iranian-backed militia. Around 20 service members were injured in drone and missile attacks that began last week against American military bases in Iraq and Syria. In Washington, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with China's top diplomat Wang, laying the grounds for a possible summit between Joe Biden and Xi Jinping next month. Putting aside differences, the two sides agreed to explore areas of cooperation. Choi Min-jung reports.
Top diplomats of the United States and China kicked off a long-anticipated discussion in Washington on Thursday. Speaking briefly before sitting down for talks, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken welcomed his Chinese counterpart, Wang Yi.
I very much look forward to constructive conversations over the next 2 days.
Wang said Washington and Beijing have disagreements, but at the same time share important common interests and challenges that they need to resolve together, comments that Blinken said he agreed with.
Not only should it be resumed, the dialogue should be in-depth and comprehensive so that with dialogue we can increase understanding, reduce misunderstanding and misjudgments.
In a statement following the meeting, U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said Blinken and Wang discussed a range of bilateral, regional, and global issues, including addressing areas of difference as well as exploring areas of cooperation. China's foreign ministry said the two sides had an in-depth exchange of opinions on Beijing-Washington relations and issues of common interests in a constructive atmosphere. The two are set to continue their discussions on Friday. Also on Friday, Wang is set to meet with National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and highly likely with President Biden as well. The current trip is primarily aimed at preparing a possible summit between Joe Biden and Xi Jinping in November on the sidelines of an Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Leaders meeting. And amid ongoing conflict, it's anticipated that the U.S. will use Wang's trip to urge China to play a constructive role in wars between Israel and Hamas, as well as Russia and Ukraine. The State Department previously hinted that North Korea issues would also be on the agenda of the meetings. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
President Yoon will host a state visit by Italian President Sergio Mattarella next month. According to the presidential office on Friday, the Italian president will be in South Korea from November 7th to 9th. The two are set to have a summit to discuss bilateral cooperation in their country's economies and space, science, and technology, as well as people-to-people exchanges. With the voting now less than a month away, President Yoon Suk-yeol has called for the unilateral support of all local governments when it comes to Busan's bid to host the 2030 World Expo. This came as he presided over the 5th meeting on cooperation between central and local governments on Friday at the city of Andong, Gyeongsang-buk-do Province. President Yoon emphasized the importance of balanced regional growth for the nation's economy going forward. The meeting also saw 5 major agenda items discussed, including strengthening local government autonomy and legislative powers, as well as incentivizing local investments. Also discussed were efforts to combat Korea's shrinking population and strategies to retain young people and businesses in local areas. The U.S. economy expanded at an annualized pace of 4.9% in the third quarter, mainly led by consumer spending. Shin Se-byuk has the figures.
The U.S. economy grew 4.9% in the third quarter. The figure released by the Commerce Department on Thursday marked the highest increase in nearly 2 years since the 7% growth recorded in the fourth quarter of 2021. Notably, this surpassed both the previous quarter's 2.1% and economists' expectations of 4.3%, despite the country's interest rates reaching their highest level in 22 years. Consumer spending played a key role. It was up 4%, the fastest pace since the last quarter of 2021, demonstrating the country's resilience in the face of challenges such as high inflation and soaring interest rates. Other indicators, inventories, investment, and government spending also posted strong growth. In a TV interview on Thursday, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen acknowledged that while the growth rate is likely to slow, she labeled it as a good, strong number. Yellen also expressed confidence in the U.S. economy's ability to achieve a soft landing. Meanwhile, as for the significant increase in long-term bond yields, Yellen attributed this to confidence in the U.S. economy, which has led to expectations of higher interest rates for a longer period. The interest rate on the 10-year U.S. Treasury bond hit 5% early this week, the highest since 2007. This came as the U.S. last week reported a $1.7 trillion federal budget deficit for the fiscal year 2023. The 10-year Treasury yield, a barometer of investor confidence, is widely considered one of the safest investments as it carries the full backing of the U.S. government. There have been suggestions that higher bond yields came as a result of worries about rising U.S. deficits and an economic recession. Despite concerns, Yellen dismissed suggestions of rising U.S. deficits and a potential economic recession and emphasized the possibility of longer-term yields decreasing. Shin Se-byuk, Arirang News.
South Korea's tech giant LG Electronics posted an earnings surprise for the third quarter of this year. Its operating profits in the July to September period reached around 1 trillion won, or $739 million US. That's a 33.5% rise year-on-year. The company attributed this to robust sales of its core home appliance businesses, where profits more than doubled compared to last year. The performance was also on the back of LG's recent shift in enterprise portfolio, including an expansion in the B2B sector, especially in vehicle components. LG's car components business hit a quarterly record high operating profit of over 134 billion won in the third quarter. Korea's food and beverage companies are seeking innovative ways to address government concerns over its surplus rice by using rice powder to make instant noodles and even beer. Our Yoon has more.
A domestic company well known for its chicken products has created the first line of instant noodles made from powdered rice. Using powdered rice brings out a more chewy texture in the noodles.
This product was developed to promote rice consumption in local farming, as well as bring consumers a new taste and texture of food. We are planning to start official sales of the noodles in stores in November.
This craft beer company in Jeollabuk-do province has been using powdered rice in its beer since 2019. Not only does the powdered rice add flavor and give a clean aftertaste, but it also makes beer production easier by eliminating the step of having to soak the rice in water.
Powdered rice is significantly more effective than normal rice. The price is similar, but it takes out a step in the production process, which is important for the manufacturer.
6 food manufacturing companies have produced 17 different snacks from powdered rice. The Food Ministry said that the 5 tons of powdered rice produced last year sold out this year and said it would increase the supply at least 20-fold for next year. In order to reap the rewards of the government's continued efforts and support to stimulate rice consumption, it remains crucial for food production companies to further develop items that spark consumers' demand. 이은진, Arirang News.
Researchers here have developed a robotic hand that is closer to mimicking our sense of touch and is capable of determining the firmness and freshness of fruits like tomatoes. 정은지 explains.
A tool resembling a hand called the gripper holds a tomato, then carefully lifts and moves it to another location without causing any damage. The gripper instantly measures the size, shape, and firmness of the tomato when holding it.
By finely adjusting the air gap between the sensing material and the electrode, the gripper accurately determines an object's firmness by simultaneously detecting the pressure applied to the object and the gripper's bending degree.
This intelligent gripper accurately distinguished 11 varieties of tomatoes with different sizes and properties, achieving a 98.78% accuracy rate. This means it can determine the ripeness of tomatoes in real-time sorting. The gripper functions stably even after more than 10,000 repetitive test runs under harsh conditions of low temperatures or high humidity.
The newly developed multimodal tactile sensor can provide various tactile functions to the robotic gripper and is expected to be applied to automation lines in the fields of collaborative, humanoid, and service robots.
In addition to the tactile sensor, the research team plans to develop a technology that integrates temperature, humidity, inertial, and distance sensors into one platform, which may enable the development of an intelligent robotic hand capable of moving and functioning naturally like a human hand. 정은주, Arirang News.
This coming Sunday marks 1 year since the deadly crowd crush in Itaewon, Central Seoul, where celebrating Halloween turned into a nightmare. Our Song Yujin looks back on the tragedy, the changes made since then, and what still needs to be done.
October 29th, 2022. Itaewon, a popular nightlife spot in Seoul, witnessed an unimaginable tragedy. A crowd crush resulted in the loss of 159 lives. 1 year later, we reflect on the question of what's changed. The absence of adequate crowd control measures has been pinpointed as a major factor. This year, director-level personnel from the Interior Ministry, alongside firefighters and police officers, are being deployed to areas expected to see overcrowding both before and after Halloween. Seoul City government is installing around 8,000 AI-enabled closed-circuit TV cameras. These cameras can detect and alert authorities to dangerous crowding. But there are still challenges.
There's now an emphasis on local governments to manage events that do not have organizers like the Itaewon Halloween festivities. But it's unclear whether every region has enough personnel and resources to do that.
The impact of tragedy has been psychological, too. Over 7,000 individuals have sought counseling, mostly the general public, after being exposed to unfiltered graphic images and videos of the accident online.
Trauma can resurface any time in the future. If you need help, you can access free treatment programs at national and regional trauma centers anytime. Local mental health and welfare centers also offer various counseling and programs related to mental health.
Back in Itaewon, instead of the customary Halloween festivities, the streets are calm, with some streets posting signs paying tribute to the victims.
So this is the exact spot where the deadly crowd crush happened last year, and now, as you can see, it's now a place where people will be able to forever remember those who lost their lives on the night of October 29th, 2022.
Messages of condolences fill the walls. People continue to stream in to pay their respects. They hope something like this will never happen again.
And whenever I walk down here, I always pause and stop and I pray. Yeah.
Avoiding large gatherings is just not realistic, so I think it's absolutely crucial to have public servants, firefighters, and police personnel involved in crowd control.
Since the accident, I've experienced some trauma when it comes to large crowd gatherings. Nonetheless, I believe that people heal through one another. My wish is for these interactions to take place in areas that are comfortable and safe.
October 29, 2022 will remain etched in the memory. Those who are lost will be remembered by those endeavoring for a safer future. 송유진, Arirang News.
Shifting gears, K-pop artist BTS's Jimin and girl group NewJeans have each been nominated in 4 categories at the 2023 Billboard Music Awards. According to the BBMAs on Thursday, Jimin is nominated in the top selling song and top global K-pop song categories for his solo track, Like Crazy. He has also been nominated for the top global K-pop artist and top K-pop album for his first solo release, Face. NewJeans was nominated for top Billboard Global Artist, excluding the US, and will compete against Jimin for top global K-pop artist, top global K-pop song with their tracks Ditto and OMG. This year's BBMAs will be broadcast live on the Billboard social media channel on November 19th. In other news, we're in the middle of the vibrant autumn foliage season. This year, it's expected to be even more colorful than usual. Our Choi Soo-young went to check out some fascinating scenery here in Korea.
The mountains turning yellow and red means that autumn is here. In South Korea, pink foliage occurs when over 80% of the mountain's trees change color. It usually starts on Seoraksan Mountain in Gangwon-do province, east of the capital Seoul and the country's coldest region. From late October this year, famous fall foliage attractions across the country are set to welcome visitors.
The mountains near Seoul have already reached their peak autumn leaves, and mountains further south like Gaeryongsan and Naejangsan are expected to have their peak fall foliage by early November.
One nearby location from Seoul is Yongmunsan Mountain in Yangpyeong-gun County, Gyeonggi-do Province, which boasts diverse tree species that determine the colors, making it a great choice for an autumn picnic. In particular, the maple trees along the track to Yongmun Temple. Its fall foliage started 9 days ago and has now reached its peak, displaying a variety of colors and beautiful landscapes.
It was my first time going on an autumn foliage trip this year, and the timing was just perfect. The autumn leaves had beautiful and vibrant colors, and when I climbed up the hill, seeing this, it made me feel peaceful and relaxed to relieve lots of the stress.
According to the Korea Forest Service, the leaf-changing season has been getting about 0.33 days later each year since 2009, likely due to rising temperatures from July to September. This year's peak fall foliage arrived 4 to 5 days later than usual, and these colorful leaves will stay for around a week to 10 days. People can still enjoy other parts of South Korea if they miss the northern and central mountain attractions. Those who want to explore autumn colors should pack their bags and have their calendars handy to start planning. The Forest Service said this year's fall foliage may be later, but due to temperature variations, it's expected to be more vibrant. Choi Soo-young, Arirang News.
Pleasant autumn conditions will take over this weekend. For Seoul, sunny skies and warm daytime temperatures are expected. We'll have no concerns about fine dust as well, so conditions will be suitable for any outdoor activities. Colder air will filter in from the northwest of the country overnight. This may create frost for inland regions. Keep in mind that frost and freeze conditions can damage sensitive vegetation. Also, for the coastline, strong winds and high waves are in the forecast. Mostly clear skies are expected for the morning hours. Tomorrow, Seoul will start off at 9 degrees, Jeju at 14 degrees. Highs will be jumping significantly, causing big contrast in daily temperatures. Seoul will get up to 20 degrees, Chuncheon 18, Daegu and Busan will be topping out at 21 degrees. Clear skies are in the forecast for the next few days. On Wednesday, central regions, including Seoul, will see showers. It's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
Well, that is all for this Friday night newscast. Thank you for watching. Hope everyone has a great weekend and a good night.
I'm live.
저를 도와주시는 분들이
저희와 함께 해주시는 세션분들
아무리 봐도 억지 펜션 같은데 아니라고 아무도 안 하는 거.